We spent a massive stimulus. They talked about QE2. Well, it's been QE for the few years. And the Fed's been buying Treasury securities at the clip of about $85 billion a month. And now they say the party's going pretty good and we're going to start taking the punch bowl away. And what that means is that the interest rates have got to go back to a more normal level, and it's going to mean some chaos in the markets. Wendy.
Yeah, and the Fed says that's a good thing because it's a sign that the economy is getting better. Gary Lane has the story.
Federal Reserve Board Chairman Ben Bernanke is optimistic about an improving U.S. economy. But he says the Fed will take a go-slow approach. It will continue the stimulus, including the purchase of $85 billion worth of bonds each month. But Bernanke says as the economy continues to improve, the stimulus efforts will be scaled back.
We would continue to reduce the pace of purchases in measured steps through the first half of next year, ending purchases around mid-year.
While unemployment remains high, currently at 7.6%, Bernanke and other economists believe the rate could drop to as low as 6.5% sometime next year. Bernanke says an increase in new home construction and sales have boosted the economy.
The housing sector, which has been a drag on growth since the crisis, is now obviously a support to growth. It's not only creating construction jobs, but as house prices rise, increase household wealth.
Higher interest rates will have an impact on consumers, making it more costly to buy cars and homes. Mortgage rates already have risen 0.5% since May and are now above 4%. They haven't been this high in more than a year. Sarah and David Turnbull are prospective first home buyers in Newbury Park, California. They want to get in before the rates go higher.
People are really thinking that makes a big difference in my monthly payment and what I can afford.
That's because every 1% increase in home mortgage rates makes owning a home about 10% more costly. A 1% increase means the monthly payment on a $500,000 home would increase more than $239. As for car loans, the higher rates mean it will cost Sarah and David an additional $200 per year to replace their current vehicle. The upside is Americans will earn higher interest on their savings accounts and CDs. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Well, I know for those looking for mortgages, this side here of 1% interest rates and so forth have been crazy. I mean, down for nothing. But the retirees have taken it in the neck. It has been so hard to work on a retirement when your money doesn't earn anything. And the money on federal securities hasn't been earning. And I've warned people, do not invest in long-term government bonds because the principal is going down. As interest rates go up, the principal goes down. Interest rates go down, value of principal goes up. So look at your portfolio and move now. It's a little bit late already, but there's still plenty of time to make some serious moves, and that includes refining your house because the interest rates the normal would be closer to 5 or 6%. And so you can just figure what that'll do to you. And now even at this, 4% is still a pretty low rate historically. But it's going to be good news for retirees. There's been a distortion in the market. The Fed has kept these interest rates down way too long. And, well, we'll see what will happen. And whether, again, they can withdraw the punch bowl little by little by little and still keep the party going. Well, while the Federal Reserve is trying to figure out what to do about the economy, Tea Party members went to Washington to protest, guess what, the IRS. John Jessup has that story.
That's right, Pat. After being targeted by the IRS, Tea Party groups rallied on Capitol Hill Wednesday to say it's time for Americans to target the tax agency. Thousands came out for the event they called Audit the IRS. Paul Strand has that story.
Capitol Hill flooded with Tea Party types upset about the IRS targeting groups like theirs for special scrutiny and what some would call harassment.
Horribly offended. Wouldn't matter if it was just conservative groups. Everybody should be concerned about it because it takes away our liberties no matter who you are.
Even the liberals need to start standing up because they're taking away our rights one after another.
Who will stand up and speak if we all don't stand together? Whenever any one of us is targeted, we should all be concerned.
This surpasses left and right. This is American citizens versus big government.
Becky Garrettson became a new Tea Party hero when she went before Congress a few days ago to say Washington politicians aren't in charge of this country.
They have forgotten their place. They act like lords over us and treat us like we're the serfs, and they need to get that back in balance.
Larry Nordvig, Richmond Tea Party executive director, said the IRS wrapped his group up in knots for more than 2 years just before the crucial 2012 election.
We were messing around with the IRS and producing 500+ pages of documents instead of being out there advocating and educating, which is what our mission is. So it knocked us off mission during the election cycle.
Jenny Beth Martin's Tea Party Patriots organized this rally.
The Constitution is designed to constrain the government. This knowledge in the hands of free people is a threat to those who lust for power and authority.
I feel what the Obama administration has done is essentially McCarthyism of the left. And not only that, it is combined with the mob politics of Chicago.
And if this broad federal government can track every phone call, if they can track every internet activity you have, if they can track your credit card, if they can track your cell phone, and if the IRS then can have a software package to focus their enforcement on the enemies of the President of the United States, this big brother has gotten a lot creepier than George Orwell thought it would ever get.
The main message from these protesters seemed to be, this time around, Tea Party, Christian, and conservative groups might have been targeted, but all Americans have to be on guard about all their liberties because we all rise and fall as Americans together. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Capitol Hill.
The FBI says it's using aerial drones here in the U.S. The Bureau says it's using a few of them and only on stationary targets. FBI Director Robert Mueller told Congress that the growing use of domestic drone surveillance calls for debate on how and when they should be used. But he said concerns over the use of airspace and the threat to privacy should be addressed as drones become more, quote, omnipresent. Mueller said the FBI is developing guidelines for drone use, but he added the topic is worthy of debate and perhaps even legislation in the future. Some members of Congress want more information on how the FBI and other agencies use drones. Former investigators say the cause of the crash of TWA Flight 800 was covered up. And in a new documentary, they say the government falsified the final report. The plane exploded over Long Island in 1996, killing 230 people. A 4-year-long investigation concluded that the cause of the blast was an exploding fuel tank. But now 6 retired investigators say federal authorities systematically undermined their work on the case.
The general consensus is it was either a terrorist attack that they wanted to ignore or an accident as a result of military operations that went wrong and they didn't want to acknowledge responsibility for it.
The investigators say they have radar and forensic evidence to prove the explosion came from outside the airplane. They want the case to be reopened, but some former government officials say there's no question the explosion was an accident. Well, Americans have very little trust in the news media. That's according to a new Gallup poll. Only 23% express confidence in newspapers and television news. Conservatives have even less trust in the news media than moderates or liberals. The percentage of Americans who've shown confidence in newspapers generally has been trending downward since 1979, when it reached a high of 51%. NASA wants your help to save Earth from a deadly asteroid. The space agency says it's working to find asteroids that might be a threat to Earth. And while it believes it's found 95% of them, they want to find all the rest. So it's asking scientists, academics, and just regular ordinary folks to come up with ideas to help find the space rocks and prevent them from hitting Earth. And if you have any thoughts, you can send your emails to NASA, but you'll have to do it fast. The program only lasts 30 days. And Pat, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that this program has your name written all over it.
Absolutely. I wrote a book called The End of the Age that talked about this. This fulfills Bible prophecy. My book had an asteroid that was 1 kilometer. That's 0.6 of a mile. That was it. And some of these that have been flying by are much bigger. So mine, it's funny, I had mine dropping in near Santa Catalina Island off the coast of California, and I gave a copy of it to Steven Spielberg. He had his drop it off the coast of Virginia Beach. So
great.
Thanks, Steven.
It was a great book. I could not put it down. If you haven't read End of the Age, I mean, it's still as timely today as it was when you wrote it.
Right out of the Bible. But you know, they want these guys with telescopes. My staff, God bless them, gave me a telescope. I've got a place on a mountain, you know, up near West Virginia, and I got that telescope, and I can see the moon. It's a big moon. I could also focus it on golfer Sam Snead's house, which is across the valley from me. I can't see much else, but it's a great big telescope.
Can't see any asteroids.
Well, they want us to go look for asteroids, and I don't know what to look for. I don't think Sam Snead, who's now passed away with his, is an asteroid.
Well, I don't think they should be asking us to look for asteroids.
Well, we might find something. Who knows? Obviously, there may be some. Yes.
The UK's version of the Girl Scouts, known as Girl Guides, are removing God from their pledge. The long-established British Scouting organization took out a reference to loving God. Leaders instead put in a call to, quote, be true to myself and develop my beliefs. The new pledge was announced Wednesday. The organization says around 44,000 people weighed in on the decision to change the pledge. The chief guide says she hopes the change will encourage more girls to join. The reference to God has been a part of the pledge since the founding of the Girl Guides in 1910. An Iranian court convicted a group of Christians for being part of a house church. The group included 4 men, a woman, and her teenage son. Among the other charges they face propaganda against the Iranian regime, disrupting national security, having contact with foreign ministries, and spreading Christianity. According to Mohabbat News, the men were sentenced to 44 months in prison. The woman and her son each received a suspended 2-year prison sentence. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.